Good morning, good afternoon, everybody. My name is Monique Muhammad, and I am the founder of Code Pink Productions Incorporated. And if you are seeing this video, that means that you are somehow viewing it from our page. I wanted to come on today, especially because I wanted to do a little Q&A. I wanted to do a little story time. I wanted to, just share my message, share some information regarding my experience with battling and surviving still currently breast cancer, as well as working with others who are breast cancer survivors, breast cancer battlers, and those who have just battled cancer, period. But of course, this is Breast Cancer Awareness Month, so I thought it was befitting for me to come on and most definitely just have a conversation and tell a little bit about my story. If you have visited our page, our website, you will potentially see the video that says about me, and it is telling my breast cancer story. I wanted to definitely, let's see, you can have 30 guys, you're right. I wanted to definitely, talk about that and share that, because after it has been so long, and I'll be honest, you kind of feel like, it's just like I'm repeating myself, and people may get tired of hearing this story, right? Or, just feeling like, especially those people who may have known you for a very long time, they're like, oh, I heard this a million times or whatever. And for me, hold on a second, guys. And for me, I don't like to be monotonous, but I do realize that just because some people have heard what I am speaking of or heard the story, that doesn't mean everybody has. And what I'm sharing in my story, in my experience, can help somebody, right? So I wanted to just quickly kind of go through exactly, we put in here that I'm an 18-year breast cancer survivor, but I'm going to talk about when I was diagnosed with breast cancer, how I felt, and what I did moving forward, and what my advice and the reason why my passion and purpose is what it is. And I definitely want to stay here long enough to allow myself to take any questions that someone may have, and don't be afraid to ask any question that you may have. There is no dumb question, there is no wrong question, and I can guarantee you will not get an answer to a question that you don't ask, okay? So we're going to start off right now. Of course, if you follow, if you know, I just turned 52 years old, and back in June of 2020, back in June of 2003, I was watching a news segment with Tamron Hall. At that time, Tamron Hall was working at Fox 32 in Chicago, Illinois. And of course, I love Tamron. I still love her now. But I was watching her, and she was doing a segment on breast cancer. She was interviewing a lady who was a breast cancer survivor, and she had the lady telling her story. So as the lady is telling her story, she basically tells that she was about 31, 32 years old, and that she was doing a self-exam, and she felt a knot or a lump in her breast. And so as I'm watching, I'm saying, and let me just kind of give a little bit of a background. At this point, I've just had a child. She just turned 1 year old that January prior to this June. And I was a adoptive parent of two young ladies that were 15, and at that time, 15 and 17 years old. Okay, so I'm watching, and I'm like, wow, I'm 32 as well. And when you're young like that, now I did have a mammogram when I was like 27. My doctor suggested it because I had bigger breasts, and we just wanted to test it. Came back, I had lumpy breast tissue. So, at in your 30s, you're not thinking anything about breast cancer. But because I was watching this, I am a firm believer that nothing happens by accident. And if for some reason you hear something, you see something, and you are triggered to do a particular thing, I kind of go with what my trigger is. So as I was watching, I said, well, wow, she's 32. I'm 32. I'm gonna feel my breast once we get off this conversation. So I did just that. Not conversation. Once I got finished watching the news, and so I did that, right? And I lay down. I kind of followed the directions. I'm looking. I actually pulled up a picture showing me, how you're supposed to do a self-exam and things like that. And so I laid and I did that, and I felt something. I felt something in my left breast. If you can see, I'm going to give a little bit of visual. Of course, I ain't lifting my shirt up, y'all, but I felt something right underneath here. And so I am doing the motions and the movements that you should, do. And I'm like, it is evident that is something, right? But at that time, I was like, okay, well, I just had a child. I was breastfeeding. That area is where, a milk duct is. Maybe it's just, something on my milk, maybe it's just my milk duct or whatever. So I didn't immediately do anything, right? I'm like, well, let's wait a month because I'm coming on my woman time. That could be it too. And so I waited about a month. So this actually wasn't June. This had to be May. I waited about a month, and then I felt again. And when I felt again, it was still there. It inside, of course, I don't know because I'm just feeling, but it felt like it was about this size, if you guys can see. All right. So I was like, man, let me call my doctor. I need to call my doctor. I need to have her feel this to see what, this could potentially be. So I made an appointment immediately. We got in. I got in with my doctor probably about 2 weeks later. So this is the earlier part of June. As soon as I go in, we go in for the appointment, and she does, what the exam that the doctors do, and she immediately feels something too. I mean, like I said, you guys, the size of it was, it just was inevitable that you were going to feel it, right? So she immediately, when she felt it, she said, okay, we're going to schedule you for a mammogram. So it got me scheduled for a mammogram. Maybe I got in maybe a week later. I went in for the mammogram. So now we're at mid-June. We're at the mammogram. They do the mammogram now. Now, because advancements with medicine and the way that they do things and the way the mammograms are, it's so much more advanced now. But back then, it was still, they could see, but it wasn't as, I guess the pictures and the equipment just wasn't as good as it is now. So they did the mammogram, and the way that they would do it is once they view the films while you're there, they have you, sit there and they look. If they look and it looks clear and it looks, good to their eye, they tell you, okay, great, see you in a year, see you back in a year. Now, mind you, at 32 years old, usually they still won't give you a mammogram because, well, back then, now they're doing it earlier, but they used to say, no, you need to wait till you're 40 years old. So that was kind of a fight in a sense, but because she was able to feel this lump and, it happened, right? So we go in, they come back out, and they say, we're going to need you to stay, and we need you to do a, ultrasound. So mind you, they did this all in the same day for me. So we go, we wait. And of course, now, so what do we want to say? I'm going to be honest and candid with you guys. What was I thinking when they told me that they needed to now do an ultrasound? In that moment, I trust doctors. I generally don't choose choose doctors that I don't trust. So I knew that it was something. I knew that it was something, but I did not automatically, just the way that I think and the way that I am, I didn't automatically think like, oh my God, I got cancer. I really was saying, because I had people who had cysts and different things. So I was like, okay, let's do what we got to do. I'm still not thinking they're going to tell me I have cancer. So when they did the ultrasound, whatever, and if anybody's watching this is in the medical field, what they're looking for, what they're seeing. Whatever they saw during the ultrasound, it told them that we needed to do a biopsy. And we did what's called a needle biopsy. Because they saw something, obviously whatever it's not supposed to look like, or whatever it tells them it's a tumor instead of just a cyst, that's what they saw. So we scheduled the biopsy, and we were able to do the biopsy maybe about 7 days later. Now I'm gonna tell y'all, and I know doctors' offices and things like, everybody's seeing the doctor and everybody needs, but when you are told and you're dealing with something like this, y'all, having to not be able to get right on it the next day, that drove me crazy, because in my mind I'm like, y'all, this is potentially cancer. Why we keep taking a week, 2 weeks for me to for sure find out what the heck is going on? So I was really, I didn't like that. And then, if you know me, I am a control freak. I like to, once I find out something is wrong, I want to get on it and I want to get fixing it. So, I didn't like that, but I had to deal with it because that's the procedure. So we schedule and we get the needle biopsy done. And you have to wait for the results to come back from the pathologist. So that at that point, I want to say it was 24 to 48 hours. So however long it was too long in my mind. They get a call. I get a call back. I know the date was June the 23rd of 2003. And they basically tell me that I have breast cancer. It is, for them, it was a stage 2 because of the size of the tumor at the time. So initially they said breast cancer, stage 2, because the stages is based on the size of your tumor. And here's the crazy thing. So I'm saying that, but I'm not telling how that actually. So they call, I get a phone call, and I get a call from a doctor at the actual hospital, but it wasn't my doctor. It was, I don't know who he was, a male doctor, but he is telling me, yes, he's calling. I'm doctor, I can't even remember her name at the time. I'm her patient, but since I just saw her 2 weeks ago, she's no longer a part of this medical center anymore, and she gone. So that's why he calling to give me, basically to give me the results. Now, I'm listening to him on the phone, and I'm thinking, you finna tell me whatever you finna tell me over the phone? It must be good news in my mind, because why would you ain't gonna tell me no bad news over the phone, and you don't even know me. Well, he ain't care if he knew me or not. He told me over the phone. And I am, at this point, I'm at my salon. I actually have a client. And I did ask, can I step away to talk on the phone? And I did. I stepped outside. And I'm talking to him. He basically says, well, yeah, we just want to notify you that your results came back and that you have breast cancer. And I was like, okay. Oh, okay. So what am I doing? What are we doing? And he said, oh, well, again, your doctor is, she's no longer here. Someone's gonna call you back and, recommend a oncologist, and then from there, they will set up everything that has to happen from there. And I'm saying, oh, okay. And I hang up the phone. And immediately, you guys, yes, my heart dropped. My heart dropped because of a few things. For one, I just had my first biological child that I planned to have, right? And so I'm just thinking, God, I know, oh my God, it's cancer. You know, people die from cancer. I know you didn't bless me with this child for me to take me away from her in this first year. Not only that, these other two young ladies who I've been their mother for over the past 7 years, they rely on me. And then my mother, who I'm her only child, and at this time she's battling some health issues that we're not sure what that was and what they were. So she needs me too. So I am, and it's crazy because that's what I immediately thought about. I didn't really think about me and how me not having to go through this would affect me. I naturally, and this is just how I'm made. I immediately just thought about what is this going to do for everybody else who needs me and relies on me. So what did I do? I didn't start crying then, but my heart did drop. I got on the phone, and I was raised for some years of my life with my Aunt Jerry. And my Aunt Jerry, if you know her, she's a very spiritual, very, very religious. She is the reason why I know about church and Baptist church and sang and was a part of a church and church family and all of that. So I immediately, which is ironic, I called her. I didn't call my mom. And I know I didn't call her because, like I said, she was already going through something. And I definitely don't want to, just like he just told me that on the phone, I didn't want to tell my mom that on the phone. And my mother was right up the street. So I call my aunt and I tell her exactly what just happened. And while I'm telling her, I do start crying. I'm crying because nobody wants to hear you got cancer. Especially when you don't understand it and don't really know what it means. So I'm crying. And I'm trying not to cry now because I don't want to not get the story out. Or, just being me, y'all. So anyway, so my aunt says then, she prays for me. And then she says, you know that God is not going to put more on you than you can bear. So stop crying. Figure out whatever it is that you have to do. You know yourself. You're a fighter. Do what you got to do. And she said it just like that. And now I don't know if once she hung up, she was sad or she was crying. But of course, she knew in that moment, I didn't need somebody on the other end crying when I'm crying. And so I will say that if you, and I mention that a lot and I talk about that a lot, because if you are a loved one of someone who gets diagnosed with anything really, but especially cancer, that is one thing we would definitely ask you to not do. We are already dealing with something inside of us. We are already wondering and figuring out how we're going to have to conjure up the strength and the energy to fight this thing. So when we speak to a loved one, or when a loved one speaks to us, we want them to show strength because it helps us to show strength and to fight. We don't want you to be sadder than we are, because it's like, man, they killing me already, as opposed to saying something positive and saying you're gonna beat this and you can do this, and not just saying that, being willing to truly be a support system. If this person is someone that you care about and love and they've been there for you, we want So we want you to be there for us. And how we don't even be sure at the time, y'all. We're not sure. But we just want to know that you're there. Okay? So, anyway, I hang up the phone. And then I go back into into the shop. And of course, I wipe my face. I'm trying to keep a straight face. And all of my clients, even now to this day, most of my clients that I've ever dealt with have become like family or good friends. They generally continue to come to me because of course, my skill set, but because of my heart and who we are. And I, engage with them as people too. So I tried to work, but I couldn't. I was working, but I couldn't hold in the tears. So, of course, my client asks what's going on. I tell her, and she immediately at that time stops and she prays for me as well. And y'all, at that moment, even though I was sad, even though I was worried, even though I was concerned, in that moment, I knew that God had me and that he was going to give me the strength to do whatever I needed to do in order to ensure, as much as I possibly could, that I did all my part to beat this thing. And there are several things that become your part, right? Mindset, remaining positive, trusting, as my aunt said, that God is not going to put on you more than you can bear. Knowing that he is the author. And however he chooses to write the book is going to be what is best for me, regardless if I understand or if I agree with it or not. So I, at that point, because like I told you, I had a 1-year-old, a 15-year-old, and a 17-year-old. I had a mom who was battling a muscular issue and something else that we had yet not known what it was. And then I was an entrepreneur solely. I can't quit. I can't let cancer be a death sentence to me. The diagnosis be a death sentence. I just can't. In my mind, I got too much more to do. Little did I know how it was going to shape what I do, but I just can't, right? So I say, okay, I wait a week. I don't hear from no doctor. I'm like, oh, wait a minute. You ain't going to tell me I got no doggone cancer and then ain't nobody going to call me and ain't nobody going to say what we going to do because we got to do something. We got to get this out of here. We got to figure out, we got to fix it. So I did. After a week, I got a call. Probably about the 8th day. I get a call. And I get a call basically saying that I need to visit this oncologist and then we will go from there. So we scheduled an appointment. I think we got in the next day. Went to go see her. No, didn't go see her that next day yet. My mom falls. And whatever the muscular issue, the thing that she had going on, it would not allow her to use her own muscles to get up off of the floor. So I would usually have to either try to get her up on my own. She lived on her own. Or if I go over there and I was by myself or with my baby, and I would just go outside and flag down a stranger and someone to help me get her up. So at this point, I'm just like, okay, I'm going through all of this. I cannot keep letting this happen with her, and I'm not sure what's going on. She's trying to find out what more is going on. Nobody is saying anything. We are taking her to the hospital. So I take her to the hospital. And what they were supposed to be trying to schedule for her to get a colonoscopy prior. They was like, oh, it's going to be 2 months before we can get you in and this and that. And I'm like, 2 months? And you think it's something, y'all think this could be something? Why are we waiting 2 months? So luckily or blessingly, by her being in the hospital and now by me being able to speak up because she's in the hospital, I was like, they have been trying to schedule her for a colonoscopy. They haven't. Can we get her one now while she's here? And so they did. They did the colonoscopy. Of course, you get the results really like right then and there as well. But they said they would let us know the next day. So she stays in the hospital. Next day I go to my appointment with my oncologist. And we talk, and she basically states that based on the size of the tumor, we are going to do a lumpectomy, which means there's only one tumor. They're going to remove the tumor, but while they're in removing the tumor, they're going to also cut underneath my arm and take out some lymph nodes, because they want to test those as well, to make sure or see if the cancer has spread from my left breast to any of my lymph nodes. So I say, okay, when we doing it. So we schedule it again, y'all. This is like the beginning of July. Again, we schedule it for 2 weeks. I'm like, oh, why are we waiting 2 weeks? Like, y'all, this cancer. Don't every time, ain't the longer it's in there, the more it could grow, the worse it could hurt me. Like, get this out. Do whatever we got to do. So, but I can't rush the people. But I wanted to. I'm just going to be honest. That was driving me crazy. So then we go the next day. I get the call. My mother's results are in. Comes back. She actually has colon cancer. And so a lot of what was going on was because, of course, this had been in there and nobody had done a colonoscopy, so they didn't know. So, of course, y'all, can you imagine? So you're 32 years old, 3 kids, an only child to your single mother. You just got told that you have stage 2 breast cancer, and now your mother has colon cancer. I did not want to hear that. I wasn't prepared to hear that. But what I can say and what I do know is that I have been through an extreme amount of experiences prior to this thing, which I may not have understood at the time. Victim of physical abuse. Now, I don't like to say the word victim. What can I say? What word I want to use? Experienced physical abuse from my dad. Experienced sexual abuse as a child. And all this is as a child from someone. And living, because of financial situations, living in about 3 to 4 different households. Growing up, not being stable in a house, stable with my mom until turning 13 years old. And then from that point, kind of basically being impoverished and getting a good education, but being poor. And just being a child raised by a single mom. So it was a lot, even up to this point. I know what I thought about it at that time, but look at you still here. So that tells you that you must have been being shaped and molded for this next battle that you have coming. And Monique, you ain't buckled. You ain't quit nothing that you've ever tried. You ain't gave up. You have never let even any force or any person or any circumstance that comes against you, you have never let it make you stop. So cancer is not going to be any different. You gonna do this. God got you. He ain't pulled you through all this stuff, built up your armor for you not to be able to use it. And grace, it would by his grace come out a champion and a victor. And when you do, you gonna do something with that. You gonna take that blessing and be a blessing. And you gonna take your story and you're gonna use it to help inspire somebody else to not give up. These tears, because I'm a crier. Anybody know me? I'm a crier. These tears are tears of gratefulness. That despite it all, I'm still here. So, I hear that. Me and my mama, despite everything, she is my road dog. If I don't get my strength from anywhere, and she used to get her strength from me, my friend out there, if Jackie sees this, she used to say all the time how she thought we were so cute because we were like little roommates. It was, I know she was mothering and parenting, but to the outside, it looked like I was just a little grown up. She was older, grown up, and we just understood each other. I do what she told me, but I did a lot of things for myself and by myself based on what she taught and how she taught me to be responsible, strong, and trust my instincts. So I was ready. I didn't know what was ahead, but I was ready. I just know God did not put me in that position and protect me in all of those situations to take me in that moment. And my mom still needed me now, even more. So, what did I do? Now I have, my mother has colon cancer. I have breast cancer surgery, a lumpectomy scheduled in 2 weeks. We do it. We scheduled my lumpectomy. I want to say my mom's, because we had to schedule for her to get her stuff. She had, you always have pre-op tests and all these other things. So I think her circumstance was coming, or her surgery was going to be at the beginning of August, after mine. So we go and I do my lumpectomy, and they also do the where they're pulling the lymph nodes. And so of course we have to wait for the results for that to come back. Now, if y'all know me, anybody know me, laughter is medicine for me. Laughter actually also is, I think, my defense mechanism or my protection mechanism from allowing myself to just totally break. I find a way to make a joke out of something. So as we're getting ready to go in, and I have to share this, as I'm getting ready to go in for my lumpectomy, my doctor's name was Dr. Deshmukh. I called him Dr. D. So, the plan is we're going to do a lumpectomy. We're going to just take the tumor out of your left breast. We don't think we need to do anything else. So before they put me under, first the anesthesiologists come in. I love anesthesiologists. I think they're the best people because that's be the best sleep that you can get. So I said, here's my favorite person. And then Dr. D comes in. I'm still awake at this time. And I say, well, Dr. D, let me tell you something. If you go in there and you see that you need to take these things off, don't you wake me up to ask me, can you take them off? Just take them off. I'll go buy me some cute ones afterwards. I know a plastic surgeon. So, of course, he laughs and he's like, no, I don't think we're going to have to take them both and for Monique. But he's like, I'm like, well, I'm just letting you know, if you go in there and you see something you don't like, go and cut them off. So we go and I do my surgery. So of course, when the results come back and they test the lymph nodes, and like I said, they tried 3. They tested 3, and of the 3, 1 had cancer in it. So that's now when my diagnosis goes from stage 2 to now stage 2B, because B meaning that it metastasized. So it spread. And so of course for them, which like for me at that time, I didn't know what that meant, but of course now I do. That's why I'm sharing, because I want to help, hopefully this information helps somebody. So that makes the plan for treatment a little different. Because, of course, I'm sure if you're watching this, you may know someone or someone who was diagnosed and it was caught early on and they were in stage 1 and they could either not even get a surgery at all. They oftentimes prescribe chemo pills, and then that will shrink or stop it or whatever. Or they'll go in and just take it out. But because it hasn't spread, they don't have to necessarily get chemotherapy infusion. They could go straight to just radiation. But for me, based on my diagnosis, the treatment plan was chemotherapy for 6 months, 5 to 6 months, and then radiation for 3 months after that. Okay. So our plan was my chemotherapy, because of course, remember, my mom has to get her colon cancer surgery. So we got to figure it out, right? So I planned my first chemo treatment to be mid-August, because my mother's surgery was going to be early August. And I can't remember, I think at that time, yes, we called my Auntie Jerry. Yeah, I talked about her earlier. She's my mom's sister under her, right? And a big bulk of their life before we were thought of, they were actually, around each other and together, which ironically, that's how me and my cousin Che are only a month apart. But anyway, so my Aunt Jerry is like, that was my mama's go-to, I guess I want to call it, unconditional supporter. And I say that in that way because me and my mother were both alike in being good people, and sometimes choosing people to call our friends or to call our sisters or to call that really were not there in the way that we needed them when we needed them, but we poured everything that we had into those people, because I'm sure my mother's reason is because like her mom passed early, and so relationships meant a lot to her for that reason, because a lot of her relationships were through extended family, because she left her biological family at a younger age. And then for me, it was kind of the same thing, because I really didn't have a biological connection with too many family members. So people and friends and extended meant a lot. So when I cry about me mentioning her calling my aunt, it's just because she knew her sister was going to stop what she was doing and come and be there for her however she needed. And that was a blessing, because of course, I gotta focus on my health, but I want to, of course, make sure that my mom is good. So I was really grateful that my aunt, even some of my friends that, one or two that I know would come and probably have been there for me, I felt like God got me. My mama's older. Can you please stand in the gap for me with my mother when I can't, because I gotta do this here thing. So we did that, right? And so I had my first chemo treatment. And at first it wasn't that bad. I had to get, I'm going to show you guys. Okay, so in my family, we have thin veins. You can't see no veins really anyway. Y'all see that? So, of course, chemo is an infusion. It's a needle that has to put this poison in your body according to your treatment plan. Well, mine was once Mondays, every third Monday. I scheduled it for then because I still was, y'all know I'm self-employed, right? I got to work. Bills got to be paid, house got to be paid for, car, all this stuff. So I scheduled it for Mondays because I was told you generally get sick by day 2 or day 3, and then you're feeling better by day 4 or day 5. Feeling better in a sense where you can get out in the world. So I did it for Mondays, and then so that I can schedule and do clients' hair on Thursday, Friday, and Saturday. So I did that. And I'm sorry, y'all. I did that, and we started my treatment. And we went to, where did we go? We started my treatment. My mother had her surgery. She had a treatment plan that basically came that she was going to her chemo was more often. It wasn't every third week. It was more often. So when I got my chemotherapy, she was doing her surgery, so she didn't start her chemotherapy until that September. So when I get it, I'm like, okay, this is not that, So they had to put a port on. That's what, I'm sorry, y'all. See, I lose my train of thought. But they had to put what's called a port. So you see this scar here? What they did is they put a device inside me and that connects to my veins, so that when they come and give me my chemo, now instead of trying to stick me and find a vein all the time, they could just go right into that port and then feed me the poison. Okay? The poison that killed the cancer too, though. So I'm not going to, I ain't like it. But, at this point, it wasn't that bad. I ain't going to lie. So I'm like, okay, my hair's still on. I thought they said you was going to lose all this stuff, right? I go to my family reunion. Labor Day weekend, everybody knows, I just had chemo, but I'm feeling good. Because like I said, you start feeling better by day 4 or so, depending on the chemo that you get. Everybody's different. So let me just say that. But this is what my experience was. So I started feeling better. So I'm at the family reunion, definitely trying to enjoy myself. And I'm feeling better. So go enjoy my family reunion. We come back. I have my friend to do my hair. So I'm like, this back in 2003. So, you wear your little wet look, and I had a short hairstyle or whatever. So she's doing my hair, and then I feel her pause and she's combing. And then I'm like, what's wrong? It's coming out. She say, yeah. I'm like, well, don't comb it no more. Just pat it. Just pat it up there. Because in my bag, we don't touch it, it ain't going to come off. So we patted and we left it alone. When I went home that night, went to sleep, the side that I slept on, just the tension from me sleeping pulled the hair out. So I wake up and I have hair on one side, no hair on the other. So at that point now, I just got to deal with, hey, we got to cut this off. Call the barber at the shop I was at. Say, hey, we need to come in. I need you to shave me bald. He says, okay, I'll meet you there. He meets me. We do that. So this is my first experience with anything. The chemotherapy for the first round, the type of chemo that I had, same kind of thing. Where basically day 2, 3, and then potentially 4, it was I felt sick or not good, but not horrible. I didn't really want to be around people who was taking me to get my chemo, which is a whole nother thing. I just didn't. God is good. I didn't have really anybody caring about me, I guess. I always care about everybody else, but yeah, I didn't. So I went to every chemo treatment by myself. I got dropped off. But what I decided to do was I'm not going to be like I'm crying now. I'm not going to be crying. I'm not going to worry about who ain't here. I'm going to worry about we're going to take care of this cancer. So I scheduled my chemo for 1 o'clock on Mondays, because that's when One Life to Live was on, because I wanted to be able to watch One Life to Live while I was in there. And I didn't want to have to look at everybody else who was in there getting chemo, because I didn't want my mind to go to I'm about to die. I just didn't. I got dressed up. I looked cute. I put my makeup. That's when I started learning how to do my makeup. My hair was gone. That's when I threw my little wig on. And I went to my chemo, and I worked to be as pleasant and as happy and as positive as I possibly could in there and in the world. Often people didn't even know I was battling cancer, because even then, as I do now, and why I totally believe that your mind is so powerful. It can't totally stop what's going on with you, but it does determine how hard or how much worse things seem to you or appear to you. So I didn't want to do that. Okay. So we get my chemo. Everything, so they say, hey, we're using this kind. I can't even remember the first one because it wasn't as horrible, I guess. But the second, they're going to do one that's called Taxotere, which I'm sure you guys probably see the commercials now asking if you took that, you could get a settlement or a lawsuit or whatever because of what it did to us. So that was the second type. And I was slated to start that in that November. And I did. And when I tell y'all, from the first infusion, it was horrible. It was so horrible. I can't even explain how horrible or why. Even from it coming in, you could feel it. You could smell it. It was like literally poison and death being injected into you at the same time. Just that portion. Then how you felt after, how I felt afterwards, it was horrible. And I'm sharing this because there are so many people who were around me or saw me during that time, and because I'm not a whiner and I'm not a crier, they ignored that I was battling cancer. And not stage 1, not saying that I'm going through chemotherapy. And it was because, I'm saying, yeah, they ignored because I was not a victim. But it was hurtful that they did that. I'm going to be honest. It was hurtful that just because I am not walking around here crying, I'm not yelling to the mountaintops to everybody, yeah, I got cancer, I got cancer, I got cancer. Which, no offense, that's what people do back in that time. That wasn't the day and age how it is now, where we're putting everything out there into the world. So a lot of people, I just feel, that were in my life did me an injustice. It is what it is. Nobody owe me nothing. And I do know that and understand that. But I was very shocked and disappointed in a lot of people, just based on who I am and who I've always been to certain people. So anyway, it was horrible. It got so horrible that I would be sick, especially the day after. Like so sick, balled up. My stomach was just in excruciating pain. Then I got to a point where I guess it was the chemo was killing my white blood cells as it was working to kill the cancer cells. So then I started getting, just sick. And then I got sores in my mouth and sores on my mouth, to where we determined, okay, my white blood cell count is going down. And from there, Because of that, of course, that's not good. So my doctor prescribed for me to take a shot. Basically, I will take a shot the day after, I think, my chemo, of a medicine called Neupogen, which Neupogen helps to increase your white blood cell count. Now, I don't like no doggone needles. So they first sent me home with needles saying I could just inject the Neupogen myself. I'm looking at it like, who you dying? I ain't gonna give myself no shot. So my crazy self, for the first 3 times, because you had to do this, I think 3 days in a row I had to do it. I would drive all the way to my doctor's office, which was about 45 minutes to an hour away from my house, just for the nurse to inject me. And they had to choose the fattest place. And at that point, y'all know I had just had a baby with this gut. So that wasn't that painful, finding a fat spot. But I just didn't want to shoot myself up. So I think my family that's lives in Kansas City ends up watching this. They'll tell you, I remember, because I really, as much as I was fighting y'all, I was really not sure if I'm going to die. So I was like, I want to. So now we're going into December. I need to be around family. I need to, just in case this is it. So I scheduled for me and my daughters to drive to Kansas City to spend the holiday with my family, but this meant I was going to have to give myself their shots myself because I couldn't drive all the way back to the doctor. But we worked that out. We did that. We took it in December. I did my chemo. Came back, did a chemo January 12th of 2004. That was my last chemo treatment, scheduled to be my last chemo treatment. From there, of course, you go, once you get done, they let time go past, and you go and get a MRI. You do a scan just to make sure, see what's going on inside your body. And if everything looks as though it's slowed down and they don't see the reproduction or any new spots, then my procedure was to go to radiation now. Because now that they've done the chemo, they need to radiate here where they took the lump out, and over here where, of course, they found the cancer in the lymph nodes. So it was like, okay, so hey, gotta do what you gotta do. In this time, like I said, my mom was getting her chemo. When I could take her, I would take her. When I couldn't, someone else would take her. We were doing what me and my mom have always done, made a way. Between me, her, my aunt, the support system that I gave to my mother, because I'm not gonna lie, I ain't had one. I ain't finna lie to nobody but my, and I, to be honest, I ain't both of my kids. One of my kids, and partially, my sister, Roshan, and yeah, that's it. Like I said, the guy I was dating at the time, he would take me to chemo. I appreciate that. He didn't go in there with me. He just dropped me back off at home. I appreciate that, but I know emotionally, and as you see now, as I'm crying, I needed some support. But look at it, God was it. So we here. But anyway, so we go and we start doing our radiation. I do my radiation. I'm doing my radiation. It was every 2 weeks. What is radiation? Of course, it's radiation, right? They're shooting these rays to the area so that, God forbid, if it's something else still there, it's radiating and potentially, hopefully, killing it. But as it's killing it, it's killing your skin. If y'all remember, I was super busty. So what was bad for me with radiation was, of course, the day of and the day after, you'd be a little tired because it's zapping you. But for me, the worst was that because I was so busty and they didn't suggest that you wear, bras, especially underwire bras, my skin, my boob would be touching my stomach. And so that sweating, and then with the radiation, it was peeling and burning and basically going raw. So that part was painful. That didn't happen to everybody. Like I said, for me, I know it was just because I was busty and it was with the sweat and the skin touching. But we did that for 3 months. So that started in February. So we did February, March, April. After that, go in for another scan. And I'll ring my bell because I'm finished. Grace of God, hopefully this is my last radiation treatment. Ring the bell, give them a little certificate. I graduated from radiation, but now once we do our scans, we need to see what it says so that we can determine whether or not I am now what they say is cancer-free. But if you understand, or if you do any research, everybody has cancer cells in their body. Whether or not they are reproducing at a fast rate is what determines whether or not you actually have cancer, or if you just have the cells there and they're dormant and they are not partying with each other and making babies with each other, so much so that you now have cancer. And so that's basically what we were checking for. And so when the results came back at the end of April, now mind you, my mama, she just getting done too. Both of us go. I am labeled as my cancer is in remission, quote unquote, cancer free. And my mother is told the exact same thing. So I know this was a long story, but I said it was going to be because it needed to be. So I was grateful and I was so happy. I have to say this, that during that entire time, I have several friends that are comedians. Now, y'all see them on the big screen now. They are Deion Cole, Lil Real, D. Ray Davis, Marlon Mitchell, Leon Rogers. I don't know, Ballhead wasn't doing comedy at that time. Well, I hadn't seen him. B. Cole. Who else? It was one more. Damon Williams. And even George Wilborn. All of them. They were all like, and I just told y'all, laughter is medicine for me. So through that entire time, y'all, I can tell y'all, and if y'all ever run across any of them, y'all ask me, hey, you know this girl named Monique? She had cancer. Monique from Chicago. She had, I'm sadly gonna have to say she's a breast cancer survivor. She had breast cancer. But they will tell you, I was at a comedy show on that, because I said that Wednesday, especially at the chemo, I feel a little better. I was at a comedy show at least 2 days a week because it helps, the laughing, being around even them. Like I call them all my brothers. I hate to say they was more. I ain't gonna go there, but I am so grateful for all of them, for just sharing their gift, which I think is why I work hard to share my gift and my passion with the world, because I know how it can positively impact somebody in a way you don't even know. So, however, I was doing that. So I was like, well, we got to do something. I got to share my joy with the world, and I got to let anybody else who is going through this or who may potentially have to fight cancer, I got to let them know that trust, fight, believe, do what you're supposed to do. Change your diet. Now, I didn't put that part in there. It wasn't just me being regular and eating all the same crazy foods and doing all. No. I researched these foods that have cancer-fighting agents in them. I stopped doing all this sugar stuff, tried to stop doing all this stuff with preservatives, all these things. And not only that, my tumor was high in estrogen. What does that mean? I'm being honest. I started birth control when I was 18 years old, and I took birth control all the way up until I became a Muslim, which was 4 years. I stopped, and then I started back on birth control when I was 27 years old, and from there on, I stayed on birth control until I was ready to have a child. Birth control, I'm not going to say it causes it. I'm not going to say that. But I know for me and what they talked about with me, because my tumor was high in estrogen, they were saying it could be a connection to the birth control. Not only that I also didn't get pregnant till after the age of 30. All of those are contributing, factors they were saying that could play a part. We did do a test where it's called BRCA analysis test, which tests to see if you have the breast cancer gene. I did not have that. Then I did a test called 23andMe, which tests for all other types of cancer genes. Grace to God, I did not have any gene for cancer because, of course, with a mom who had colon cancer, that is what you're naturally going to think, oh, my God, then now I'm possibly going to be going through this. So I had to put that out there. And so I said, what can we do? What can we do? And so I said, we're going to do an event, and I'm going to call it Celebration of Life. And I'm going to ask all my friends, would they come and make people laugh? I like to sing because I also was at karaoke because I like to sing. Let me see if my friend's mama who got a band, if they'll come and sing. Let me see if we can do the food. I threw together in less than 21 days the first annual Celebration of Life. Cancer Awareness Gala is what we were calling the event at that time, and honoring myself and my mother. And that was in May of 2004. And all of them showed up. They had everybody laughing. If anybody who remembers the first Celebration of Life. Y'all, I probably had about 10 comments because, of course, they was on the phone like, oh, yeah, we had Monique thing. Monique that was fighting cancer. Yeah, she doing this. So they were home on my way and they show up. I'm like, yeah, you get 10 minutes. You get 10 minutes because I loved laughing. It was fun. Everybody was enjoying it. And they loved the band. They loved the food. We had Dusty's. If you're from Chicago, you remember Dusty's. We had Dusty's cater the food. And it was just a celebration. So good of a celebration that we about to go into number 20 in 2023. We have not stopped it. I promised God at that moment when I was told that my cancer was in remission, and when I did that first event, that as long as I'm living, and I pray to God that my daughter understands, and my granddaughter, or whoever, my grandchildren, whoever's in my life understands the importance of this event to me and continuing on having it. Because I know how many lives it has touched. I know how many lives it has changed. I know how many people that through me and through my transparency and through my passion and through me knowing my purpose, how many people I have helped. I'm not able to do everything, and I'm realizing that as I continue to get older, but I try because I want to be in the world what I want to see in the world. And that is compassionate, caring, giving, successful, and just a good human being. So I made that promise. And since then, and I've even relocated states, we have not stopped. We did not stop even in the pandemic. Because guess what? If I could fight cancer, and if I can go through all those things that was going on in my early childhood, even through cancer, through fighting cancer and all that, I'm sorry, I ain't letting no pandemic stop me from doing what I promised to God I was going to do. Will I alter it? Will we adjust it? Yes, we will. And that's what we did. But we still kept doing it. And grace to God, July, what is the date? My Chicagoans. July, it's the third Sunday in July, but let me just get the exact date for you. July 23rd, 2023, the 20th annual Celebration of Life Cancer/Health Awareness event will be held in the city of Chicago. Location will be announced. It's kind of sealed, but I want to make it sealed before I announce it. So be prepared. If you guys heard this story, if this story touched you, and regardless of not, it's Breast Cancer Awareness Month, please share this video. Yes, it's long. You can't tell a cancer story in a 5-minute video. You can't, not if you truly want to touch the people and reach the people the way that you need to. So even if you got to stop, come back later while you're cooking or doing whatever, watch this full video. I hope you've watched this full video. And once you watch it, I ask that you share it, because there is somebody who is going through something right now, not even necessarily breast cancer, but some kind of health ailment or health issue that potentially is making them want to give up and quit, because they may have some of the obstacles, if not more obstacles, in their path that I had in mind. And listening to my story and seeing my energy and seeing my spirit and seeing how strong my faith is can help them push just another day or another minute, and realize that if God allowed them to open up their eyes today, that is another opportunity to survive and to continue to fight. Don't give up. I always saying nothing like a challenge for a champion. And we all are champions, especially those of us who life ain't been no crystal stair. But guess what? We still smiling, we still trusting, and we still walking in the light, in the path that I know for me, God has put me on. So God bless you guys. It's Breast Cancer Awareness Month. Do your self-examinations. If you are over 25 and you can get your doctor to allow you to get a mammogram early, start getting your mammograms early. Don't let them tell you 40 years old, because as you see, I was only 32 and diagnosed, and I have several people that I know that prior to the age of 30 was diagnosed at least twice with breast cancer. So you have to be proactive in your own life and be your advocate for yourself, especially medically. Get a first opinion, get a second opinion, but don't allow yourself, because you're afraid of the fight, to give up and not fight. Because what I can tell you, if you do nothing, nothing is going to happen. Key thing that will happen is if you don't get what I can say will happen, if you don't become your own advocate, and if you don't fight for yourself and for your life, you may not have one. And some things you can't control. But what I can say, and I told my sister friend this today, I know it's not by any accident that I'm talking to you about this 18 years later, going on 19 years later, when I know people who went through the exact same thing in the time frame that I did, and unfortunately are not still here. This is not by accident. I'm supposed to be doing what I'm doing. And not for me, for the grace and glory of God, and to fulfill what I know my purpose is. And it ain't over. And I guess I know I got some more stuff to do. And I'm going to continue to walk in this path, on this path. I'm going to continue to work to be a beacon of life and light and happiness to anybody that I encounter. Not I'm going to be perfect. I ain't saying that, because I won't be. And there are going to be some days where I want to smile and I may not can't smile. But what I can promise you is, even in those times, I'm not going to dump unhappiness on you. I'm not going to ever mistreat somebody based on what I'm potentially going through in this time. And I'm going to always trust and believe and have faith that it will be better. It can get better. And with the grace of God, I am and will continue to have better and be better. That's what I know. And even in the darkest days, I'm going to still know that. Okay? So God bless y'all again. Make sure you visit and support Cold Pink Productions, Inc. That is the 501c3 nonprofit that we ended up forming after doing the 5th celebration of life. So in 2011, because we want to take this show on the road and do more and give more, and everybody who and help help those who may have experienced or may be experiencing a lot of the things, the trials and tribulations that I experienced in life. I definitely wanted to do something to reach them, because I can show you or be a living example of walking by faith, trusting in God, and the power of being and striving to be a good person, no matter what anybody else does to you, and no matter how much people make you want to be not a good person. Keep on keeping your eye on the prize. Keep trusting God that your blessings and He is your source, and you will be all right. Share, share, share. God bless y'all. Feel your boobies. Get your mammograms. Early detection saves lives, and that is for men and women, not just women. Okay, guys? Understand that. Early detection saves lives. They are battling now with whether or not we should be doing self-exams. I say do what you feel comfortable with. Self-exam is how I called it. So I'm going to always kind of recommend that. All right. God bless y'all. Peace. Have a great rest of the day. Bye.